So if you haven't heard by now, a lot of indie developers are really upset lately. And the reason why they're upset is because they've been using a development tool called Unity to make their games. And Unity has recently come out and said, hey, indie devs, guess what? Now we're going to change up the pricing on you. And so every time a gamer installs one of your games, you're going to have to pay us a piece of that. And this has created a lot of outrage and it's created a lot of problems for indie developers. And there are two in particular, the Cult of the Lamb developers, as well as the Slay the Spire developers, who have come out and made statements about this that I'll be covering in this video. Now, the problem with what Unity has done here is it's not only going to affect developers, it's going to affect the industry as a whole, and it's going to affect gamers individually. Now, what happens when the Unity developers come out and say retroactively that we're going to be charging you, indie devs, per install, is that the prices of their games are going to have to go up. And the reason why they're going to have to go up is some of these indie devs are going to not be able to sustain their companies any longer and sustain their studios any longer if they don't increase the prices of their games. And so the prices of the games are going to go up. That's the first problem. Now, the second problem is sometimes what could happen is the indie developers could feel like if they put up the prices of their games, then people won't buy them anymore. And so they're going to feel pressured and forced to ruin their games with a plethora of pay-to-win mechanics and microtransactions and things that PC gamers and console gamers don't like at all. And they might feel forced to do this in order to just, scrape by and to keep their company afloat. That's the second problem. Now, the third problem is a problem near and dear to me personally. And that's because one of my favorite games of all time is Escape from Tarkov, which is a game made in Unity. And that game has a massive problem with cheaters. And the developers of that game are spending tons of money, tons of resources, and, a lot of time and effort to combat the cheaters in Escape from Tarkov. Now, if Unity comes out and all of a sudden says, hey, Tarkov developers, you're going to have to pay us a lot more money than you were for no reason at all, just because we decided that that's what we were going to do. That's going to make it even harder on the Escape from Tarkov developers to ward off cheaters in their game. And they've already been trying so hard to do it. And this is only going to worsen the cheating problem in that game. Now, the thing about these three issues, the price going up, microtransactions being added to the game, and an increase in hacking, cheating, and all the things that cost money to moderate and to ward off in these games, all of these lead down to one road. All roads lead to Rome. And what Rome is piracy. And so when the prices of games go up, when they become more difficult to access, and when they become ruined by things like cheating, people are going to make single player mods. I shouldn't be talking about this because BSG doesn't like it, but essentially people are going to be pirating Escape from Tarkov. They're going to be pirating all these other indie games. And now here is the real big issue for the indie developers. It is uncertain whether or not these indie developers will be charged for the installation of pirated copies. Listen, I haven't programmed for a long time, so I don't know if Unity will ultimately be able to detect the difference between a pirated copy and a non-pirated copy. So are we in a situation where if someone pirates one of these indie games, will the developer be charged for that installation? And Unity has come out and essentially said, trust us, bro. We got this, bro. We're not going to charge you for pirated copies, but how can we trust them? We don't really know if this is something they have control over. And it's something you just have to take their word about. And they've already demonstrated their greed, and they've already demonstrated how unfriendly they have been to the industry. And they have recently taken off their terms of service off their GitHub. So it's clear that they're being a little snaky. They're being a little sketchy here. And so the two developers I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Cult of the Lamb developer in particular, has decided to take the Cult of the Lamb off of the store. They've decided to delete Cult of the Lamb. And this is an indie game that is beloved by a lot of gamers. It was a great indie game. And this is something that they said they were going to do, which is unfortunate. And the thing that has also occurred to the Cult of the Lamb developers, as well as the slate of the Spire developers, is they've both said, hey, listen, we've had some games in the pipeline. We've been working on some new games. And the problem with these new games is we have been using Unity to develop them. And so now we're going to have to change our plans, and we're going to have delays in our releases because we're going to stop using the Unity engine because what Unity has done is unfair. And so not only is this going to be something that is not so fun for gamers because they're going to have to wait for their upcoming games to be delayed, but the developers have spent time, they've spent effort, and they've spent money developing their upcoming games with Unity, making assets, paying salaries, just so they can make their next games. And for them to switch away from Unity means they're cutting their losses. This is hurting indie devs tremendously. And so it's something that is comparable to what happened with Overwatch 2. When Overwatch 2 was announced, people were excited about it. And then Blizzard stopped developing updates for Overwatch 1, and Overwatch 1 became stale. But in the eyes of gamers, that wasn't that big of a problem because Overwatch 2 was on the horizon. And then Overwatch 2 comes out, and Blizzard announces that we're going to be adding PvE into the game. And so a lot of gamers who had hope in Blizzard, who had trust in Blizzard, invested in Overwatch 2, not only with their time, not only with their effort to rank up and play the game, but also with their money because they expect that this is a game that Blizzard is going to be maintaining, going to be updating, going to be taking care of. And when someone has trust in a game and in a developer, they spend money on microtransactions. People spent money on the seasonal battle pass. People spend money on cosmetics for Overwatch 2 in anticipation for what was to come in the future of Overwatch 2. And then Blizzard came out and said retroactively, hey, just kidding. Actually, we're not going to do PvE anymore. Sorry about that. Yeah. And oh, yeah, all the stuff you purchased in anticipation for the updates of this game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, bro. And it's for that reason that Overwatch 2 is the worst rated game on Steam today. And Unity has done the exact same thing. They've gone in and retroactively said to all the developers who have been using it, who have made games with it already, who are using it to make new games, who have spent a lot of time and money using the Unity engine, developing assets in the Unity engine, paying developers to learn and use the Unity engine. All that has now gone down the drain. And so, is there a silver lining in all of this? I think the Unity developers, have gotten so greedy, and that their greed is going to end up shooting them in the foot. Because Unity ultimately does not have a monopoly on game development tools. The Unreal Engine exists, and this has also created an opportunity for new developers to go out there and to create new engines for indie devs to use to make their game. And so if any new indie developer up and coming is trying to make a decision on what engine to use, it's much less likely now that they're going to choose Unity. Unity probably hopes that there's going to be some cost on the end of people who have already made games with Unity because they're going to feel stuck because they've already made their games. They've already released their games. You know, Escape from Tarkov being one of them. And so they're going to feel forced to either completely remake their game or to pay up to Unity. And so they've decided to play dirty. They've decided to play rough. And they might make money because of it in the short term. But in the long run, more and more people are going to move away from Unity. More and more developers are going to look for alternatives. More and more alternatives are going to be made to Unity because Unity is now a weaker prospect in the marketplace of alternatives. And Unity is eventually going to get what they deserve.